Picking back up off my last video, on the Dutch East Indies in the 16th century, Spanish manila galleons landed and Chinese goods with crew Filipinos sailed from East Indies to North America, reaching the California coast by following a route on the Pacific. The ships would then sail south along the coast, following California current towards Acapulco in Mexico. This connection established the first direct link between Asia and California coastline, driven by the lucrative trade between China and the Spanish Empire, which His Majesty is already in down there. Now, this is south, and traveling the coastline to take you far south, which is once you hear north. Now remember, they're traveling down the coastline, they're coming into New Spain. Now, in New Spain coming down, this is the first contact. Ships like St. Augustine under Sebastian Rodriguez, 1595, right? Then you got arriving in California, the ships will sail south along the coast using south-flowing California current to reach the destination. In New Spain, these voyages mark the first time Asians visited the west coast of America, with Filipino sailors and bonded laborers are part of crews on these Spanish ships. Now remember, this will be a part of the 12 tribes here. His Majesty, the Arabic Chinese style Hebrews blended. The East Indies blended into the West. And that's the trick of the 16th century specifically. See, at this time, we're still countries, okay? And them coming from the deep south, traveling into the far west, which is really the north. Well, New Spain right here, you're gonna understand once we do the reconstruction contract later on. Now, once they travel into the deep north, they're gonna land in New Spain, the Acapulco Road right here, and they're gonna do the China Road and migrate. Residents of the Chino slave discussed in the book, credible source, credible map. The China Road, dominant route taken by the Chinos to the primary slave market in Mexico. This refers to the trans-Pacific slave trade of the 16th and 17th centuries, which transported enslaved people, primarily of South and East Asian descent. Remember, this is mankind, East Indian Dutch, which is African descent, to colonial Mexico, and these individuals were collectively and pejoratively called Chinos. The Spanish word for Chinese, regardless of their actual origin. The trans-Pacific slave route, 16th and 17th centuries, which are the East Indies, like we're breaking down, creating the West Indies. Spain's manila galleons created a trade route between its colonies in Asia and the Americas. While the best known for transporting luxury goods, the galleons also transported tens of thousands of enslaved people. Origins of the enslaved. Although labeled Chinos upon arrival in Mexico, enslaved people came from diverse communities across Asia, which we broke down in the last video. Many originated from the Indian subcontinent in Southeast Asia. Subcontinent means very, very small. The Indian subcontinent, regions of Asia below the Himalayas, which projects into the Indian Ocean between the Bay of Bengal to the east and Arabian Sea to the west. It is now divided between Bangladesh, India, and Pakistan. Although the terms Indian subcontinent and South Asia are often used interchangeably to denote a wider region which includes, in addition, Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka. The Indian subcontinent is more of a geophysical term, whereas South Asia is more geopolitical. South Asia frequently also includes Afghanistan, which is not considered part of a subcontinent even in the extended usage. Again, political map, time frame era, the correct places. Now, like I broke down, 1700s going a little bit farther backwards to the 16th century, when that Russian Empire was coming in, like I broke down that colonization of Alaska, right? In the 1897 census is the only thing to show. It was in my last video. I got a credible source from a guy named Opio, and he pulled it out also. He says, Alaska, territory of the United States in northwestern North America, nearly 591,000 square miles, of which half is Indian Eskimos, which is the East Indies, like we're breaking down. Capital. Alaska includes the islands, which stretch about 800 miles across the Pacific nearly to Kamchatka. The westernmost islands of chain belong to a longitude, right? That of Samoan Islands. The main part of Alaska is as far north as Sweden and Norway, while the southernmost part is as far south of Scotland. Now, breathe. Remember, once they travel north, but to them south, because it's deep south into the north, right? They're going to go into the Spanish crown, and we already got put out as the original people. So the Hebrews are in there, Yidnakimir's, His Majesty down there. And remember, before Mexican, it's those Chinos that exist, because the Chino gonna migrate also with the sub-Saharan West later on to create the sub-Saharan West African, the West Indies. Now, that'll take you dealing with the Great Plains, right? The Great Plains. Now, the Native American tribes, particularly on the Great Plains, began acquiring and breeding horses in the 16th, 17th centuries, transforming their societies. Spanish origin, the modern horse was reintroduced to the Americas by a Spanish conquistador in 1519. Horses escaped or were acquired by tribes in Southwest and spread northward, reaching the Plain Indian by early 17th century. This is when the West Indies is coming in. The acquisition of the horse profoundly impacted Native American life, altering hunting practice, warfare, and migration patterns. The increased mobility allowed tribes, like the Comanche and others, in their territory to hunt buffalo more efficiently. Now, didn't we get captured as the people by these Indians and get called Buffalo Soldiers later on? Now, the breeding line, many Native American horses' breeds descend from Spanish horses which had Arab and Berber bloodlines. The horse is Arab and Berber, a specific bloodline in the Indian of the Great Plains, the East Dutch, Spanish Indian, Native American would also be the same. The Dutch, East Indies, Arab, African, almost like the Sands people, right? Transporting the new workers, right, into what you call Brasilia. It's really South America in their head, but it's North America in our old world. This is also called Ethiopia, which is inside of America. Please stay tuned for the next video of how us, the American freedmen, advanced civilization, well, we got captured by India Superior, and it made us primitive. Flocka.